Good evening. Welcome to Sports Weekend on I-24 News. Live from the Jaffa Port, I'm Mirav Savir. Coming up on the show today, we look ahead to El Clasico and back at Arsenal's humiliating defeat. We take a run through the hills of Jerusalem as part of the city's 4th annual marathon. How about an extra €1 million? PSG player can pocket that money. All they have to do is win the Champions League. And what's happening with the NBA's elite? LeBron and Bosh speak out about their team. Joining me for the show today are I-24 News sports analysts Jonathan Regev and Danny Swibel and our Twitter extraordinaire Michal Divon. Welcome, guys.
Evening, Marav.
Good evening, Marav. How you doing?
And we're kicking it off with football. And Jonathan, we're going right into it with the top and flop. And your top for the week isn't actually a team, but it's a game and possibly the best game of the year.
Best game in Europe by far. It's only 15 minutes away. Real Madrid against Barcelona. It's always big, especially now. The season is about to end. Both teams are in a triple race to the Spanish Championship. Every time Real Madrid and Barcelona meet, it's a feast. I mean, look at the names. Cristiano Ronaldo on one side, Leo Messi on the other side.
Possibly the best names in football.
Best names in football. So much, and yeah, there's also a lot of history in this game, a lot of politics. Real Madrid being the team of the Spanish royalty, Barcelona being Catalonia. But it's today the politics have gone aside a bit. It's more about football and those giant names, the big money. Every time they meet, it's extraordinary. The football is...
Because that's what the fans want to see. They want to see the best matched up against the best.
It's no wonder that all the people in the world tune up to this game every time. There's so much to see. The level of football is just extraordinary. It's the players are just huge every time. And it's some of the big games in the Bernabeu that I can remember. A 5-0 win by Real Madrid, then a 6-2 win by Barcelona, a 3-0 draw. Leo Messi scoring all the goals for Barcelona in that game. So a lot to expect for. The good news is it's about 15 minutes away. So
we don't have to wait too long. Once we're out of here, we can run to our TVs.
Yeah, exactly.
And we hope that it doesn't disappoint.
Tune in.
Sounds good.
And on to our flop, Arsenal. Every time they meet a big team, that's what they do. They flop.
Especially when it happens the way. Look at the results. They lost 6-0 yesterday at Stamford Bridge to Chelsea. Before that, 5-1 in Anfield to Liverpool. Before that, 6-3 at the Etihad Stadium to Manchester City. What happens when they meet a big team? They just can't handle it.
And you can even argue that yesterday's 6-0 loss wouldn't have been that bad if they didn't have the two previous ones also.
Exactly, because this states a point saying when you face big teams, you will fail. They even lost to Manchester United this season. Manchester United lost so many games throughout the season, especially at home at Old Trafford. But when Arsenal gets there, they lose. Bayern Munich, they face Bayern Munich. They lost every time they face a big team. They lose.
Facing Bayern Munich, you lose. That's the theme of this season.
Exactly.
But they ruined Van Gaal's little celebration.
Yeah, it was the game number 1,000 for him as the Arsenal manager, and it was an important game facing Chelsea in this very tight championship race in the Premier League. This was an important. It wasn't only the landmark game number 1,000. It was a big thing. If they won this game away at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, they would have narrowed the gap. They would have perhaps gone over Chelsea with a game in hand they play in midweek. But now I think their title aspirations as for the championship in England is gone. That's going to be 10 years without a Premier League title. All they have now is the FA Cup. Their chances are pretty good there because there are no big teams to face.
And those 10 years make for a lot of sad Arsenal fans and probably elated Chelsea fans on Twitter, Michal.
Wow, Twitter today was not a nice sight, let me tell you. Let's look at our first
Especially
Twitter.
For Arsenal fans.
If you're an Arsenal fan, this is not the place you want to be.
The Arsenal Twitter sphere this morning, we have a picture depicting it. Basically, they're being bashed big time. I won't say what's happening in this picture. You can see for yourself. But, just when people thought they were getting back on their feet, again, they lose. Like Jonathan said, every time they lose to a big team, and this was Van Gaal's 1,000th game, he didn't even come to the post-match press conference. He must be really humiliated. He was quoted saying, "Every defeat is a scar in your heart." So this
one must be several scars.
Be a really big one. Another tweet is, the last time Arsenal won a trophy, there was no such thing as Twitter. Therefore, we have never tweeted winning anything.
2005 was their last. There was no Twitter. There's no YouTube.
It sounds premortal, but really, 10 years ago, there was no.
10 years ago,
there was no Twitter.
The last time they won a championship. It's humiliating for a big club such as Arsenal. I don't remember 2005.
Well, Michal, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and we're moving now to this week's report. Running a marathon is tough, and it's even tougher running through hills, specifically the hills of Jerusalem. But what made this weekend's Jerusalem Marathon even more interesting is the mix of people who participated in it, and even more so, the causes they ran for. I-24 News' Jonathan Salem caught up with them at this year's event.
Jerusalem was full of athletes and spectators as more than 25,000 runners attended the 4th annual Jerusalem Marathon. Many runners from around the world came to compete in the marathon, but there were also local runners who participated for different causes, among them charity associations collecting diapers and powdered milk for distressed mothers, as well as thousands of soldiers from the Israeli Defense Forces. One runner is Akiva Grossman, a military fitness instructor who trained hundreds of soldiers ahead of the marathon.
The soldiers need to understand that sport is done out of love, not because someone is being forced to do it. We train them to run gradually, first 3 kilometers, then 6, 9, and then 10 kilometers, especially because they run with heavy equipment. It's going to be fun for them, running without heavy weights on their backs.
Another runner is medical officer Dr. Moshe Pinker, who prepares for running the 10-kilometer race. As much as Pinker wishes to beat his own record, in addition to running with his friends, he remains in duty, as he keeps an eye on the soldiers if any of them have trouble during the marathon.
This event is highlighted as part of a military health program. 3,500 soldiers are here today, and they understand that running is good for your health. There are commanding officers on all levels here, but there are lots of soldiers here as well.
The Jerusalem Marathon is one of the most difficult marathons in the world, mainly due to the city's complex geographical structure, with dozens of hills to climb before rolling in long descents. The cobblestones of the old city, within the narrow historic streets, also give the runners a really hard time during the race. The winner was Kenya's Ronald Kimeli Kurgat, who set a new record for the marathon, finishing in 2 hours, 16 minutes, and 9 seconds, and claim a $10,000 prize for his record-breaking achievement. Afterwards, the first soldiers arrived, extremely tired, being pushed to their limits, but with a mission accomplished in hand. Maybe next year, we will see them in Jerusalem again.
French football powerhouse PSG have yet to win the Champions League. Their owners, Qatar Sports Investments, are hoping that changes this year, and they're offering up a small additional incentive to their players. If they hoist the trophy in May, each player will be rewarded with €1 million. Jonathan, before we actually get into the money part of this, are PSG for real? Can they win this money and the trophy?
I think they can. We saw them last season. They made it to the quarterfinals. They were very, very close to kick Barcelona away. They only lost on away goals, and they only seem to get stronger this year. We saw them very, very impressive, both in the Champions League on their quite secure way to a second straight championship in France, and they look very good.
So if they can win this, why give that extra €1 million incentive if they could have done it with what was their last incentive?
Because we can.
A couple €100,000.
Because we can, and we want to show that we are a big team, such as Real Madrid, such as Barcelona, such as Chelsea, that have the big money. We want to show the whole world that we're there in the big league, that we reward our players with the big money, we can pay them the big money, and we can bring the big players. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is already there. Edison Cavani is already there. We are there in the big league. Real Madrid can pay €100 million for a player, so can we.
And could they have gotten there without this Qatari money?
Absolutely not. We're seeing that the French league is strong, is good, but only one French team won the Champions League, and that was Marseille 21 years ago. France has a very strong league, not as strong as the Premier League, La Liga, as the Serie A in Italy used to be up until recently. Now with the big money coming in PSG, perhaps even in Monaco, at least these two teams and perhaps a few more can add another level to themselves and be just like the big teams in Europe, like Real Madrid, like Barcelona, like Bayern Munich.
And Danny, I want your opinion on this too. Athletes, players, what's a bigger motivation for them, the money or hoisting up that trophy, especially if they've never won one before?
See, that's a tough question. I mean, listen, sports is a business. You know, people create these games to make money, but the thing is, the game itself is a product for fans. So if these players are too focused on making the money and not winning that trophy, the product is going to be poor, and it's going to affect the fans, and it's not fair to them because they are the ones who are making sure that these people are millionaires and billionaires by going to these games.
And paying a lot of money for these games. The ticket
And
prices
as you
are
said, they have the money,
Right.
and especially if they win the Champions League, they'll have plenty of money to hand out to all those players.
Money is not an issue there. They have a lot of money, and they've been able to bring Zlatan Ibrahimovic, a very, very big star, and he's showing this year that he's very strong. He's not only leading by far the race for the French goal scorer, he's also scoring a lot of goals in the Champions League. They were already very, very impressive last season. They're better this time around. They faced Chelsea, which is a very good team, a very rich team by itself, but certainly a team that PSG can go past. And then semi-final and final, anything can happen. This may be very interesting to see.
And Danny, you've experienced March in the U.S., commonly nicknamed March Madness, where you see college players going at it. These are college players that they do not get paid. They do not get any incentives. They do not get any prizes. They don't get cars for winning a trophy, but they're crying in the locker rooms when they lost.
It's a beautiful thing. It's all about the love of the game. You know, that's kind of a cliche term nowadays, but it's true. It's the love of the game. They want to play to win because it means something. They want to raise that trophy with their teammates and show their fans that they are number one.
They're there to cut down those nets. And Michal, what are fans saying on the web about this extra additional incentive?
Well, let's go to our first one. I'll say what one of the French newspapers is saying. L'Equipe newspaper reveals that each player of the PSG will receive, we know this, €1 million raise if they win the Champions League without paying the 75% tax. Now, this has been a huge issue in France. One of the election campaigns of Hollande was, saying that he's going to raise the tax for the rich, and whoever makes over 1 million will pay 75%. And then they said no, but this will end up affecting and really harming sports. So it ended up being that the team will pay, and it ended up being that the team will not pay. And so at the end, not only do the poor not benefit from this, they exempted all sports plus Monaco. So this has been a really controversial issue in France, and definitely
This is just adding to the controversy.
I don't think this has been anything good for the fans. Our next tweet is saying rather than pay millions to billionaires, PSG should lower price on tickets. And I was looking at ticket prices. The lowest started around €300. This is crazy. This is supposed to be a sports for everyone, a sports for the people.
That's very important. I mean, you pay a lot of money to people who are already rich. Go ahead and make tickets cheaper.
Instead of giving the players more incentives when they're already making millions, they should give incentives to the fans to come. Michal, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're moving on to NBA action. The Pacers and the Heat both already clinched playoff spots, but in the last 10 games, neither team is above 500, with some embarrassing losses. And Danny, I want to start with Miami. Last night, they lost to the Pelicans, which I would say that's one of the embarrassing losses. LeBron and Bosh came out after that game speaking out against the team. What does this mean for them right now?
Speaking out, LeBron had steam coming out of his ears. I've never seen LeBron James that upset in that press conference. I mean, he wasn't even looking at the people who were asking him the questions. He was tired of the excuses. He's tired about playing on this crummy team with a lack of heart.
And when have you ever heard us say that the Heat are a crummy team?
I know, it's crazy. They've lost 7 out of the last 11 games. Bosh said there's no passion, there's nothing. Their defense cannot stop a nosebleed. I mean, it's been a disaster for them.
And let us also highlight that one of the 4 wins in those 11 was a very, very tight one against Cleveland.
That's right. And remember, Cleveland is a very crummy team. They've been losing to very, very crummy teams, but now they lately have been the talk of the town as the crummy team. And I can't say it enough. I mean, I'm a little bit happy about it. At the same time, you got to feel bad for them because now with all this disinterest and these injuries, you would think a team like Indiana would start to be putting them in the rearview mirror, but it's not happening.
Then we see it also with the Indiana Pacers. They're also in a bind. What's going on with these two teams who we were all expecting to meet in the Eastern Conference Championship?
Yeah, we all assumed that they were going to be the two teams playing each other to go to the finals, but that's not always the case. Right now, Indiana's extremely overworked. Paul George, he shot 2 for 10 in that loss to the Grizzlies. I mean, he's dead tired. He has no legs under him right now. The whole team is kind of playing, kind of a lackluster defense. There was a time where Miami was first in offense and Indiana was first in defense. Now Miami's 5th in offense and Indiana's 6th in defense since the All-Star break. So both of these teams are not going into the playoffs with a lot of steam.
And with both of these teams, and the East isn't very tough to begin with, we're making way for Kevin Durant, Oklahoma City Thunder. Kevin Durant is on a tear. Is this going to continue into the playoffs?
It's looking like it's not going to stop. This guy dropped 51 points in all those overtimes and hit the game-winning bucket. And of course, he did that without the help of Russell Westbrook, which is always, kind of an ongoing factor. Russell Westbrook will be back, but the way OKC keeps playing, even with teams out there like San Antonio, the Rockets, Warriors, Clippers, this, I believe, is going to be the team to beat, and hopefully that...
And can we see an MVP title?
If this guy doesn't get MVP, I don't want LeBron to get it, you know that. Maybe a favorite bull of mine could get it, but the thing is, I think Durant...
another show with you mentioning the Bulls.
I'm from Chicago, sorry guys.
Well, Danny Swabel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marav.
That's all for us today. For all the latest sports news, you can find us online, i24news.tv, our Facebook page, or our Twitter page. And please, you can tweet at us at i24newssports. We'd love to hear from you on there. From all of us here on Sports Weekend, I'm Merav Savir. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to join us again next Sunday for all the sports news.